Bonjour and welcome to Paris, to what is quite literally the world's Frenchest motor show. And what could be more French than loitering between the legs of a giant Peugeot Lion? I'll leave that image with you. All right, so make your way through. We start with a bang with a car that I think is my favourite from the Paris Motor Show, hands down. It's Peugeot's concept. It's called the E Legend, and it's a car that is autonomous. It's electric, like most concept cars are these days, but it's also clothed in the most beautiful retro bodywork I've ever seen. It harks back to the 504 Coupe, but people have said it looks like other things, like the Nissan IDX concept. Someone even said the Bullet Mustang earlier, although I'm not sure about that. But need we read into it too much? It's a beautiful piece of design. It's Peugeot signalling that it's got an EV future, that it's embracing autonomous technology, but it's having some fun. It's getting our attentions. It's building something cool. And if you look around here, there's more people looking at this car than anywhere else in the show. It's just precise and beautiful, and hats off to Gilles Vidal, who's the head designer who's made this thing happen. Come around here, we'll see if we can stick the camera in the door here, because the interior is something pretty special as well. There's people in there right now, but you'll see the teal velour on the seats, which is something I always look for in a car. Now, the steering wheel is folded away, as is the dashboard. That's because it's in autonomous mode, and there's an enormous screen down there by your feet, so you can catch up on your Netflix or your social media. Now, when you want to drive yourself, well, the wheel comes out of the dash, you can take hold of it. It's got 450 horsepower. It should be fun to drive. And I like this approach by Peugeot. It's saying, we've got the technology, we can build electric cars, we can build autonomous cars, but people ain't gonna buy them unless they look cool. What a thing. Right, over to Renault, another all-electric autonomous concept, but something quite different. This is their take on what the autonomous car of the future is going to look like, and it's quite a lot longer. It's called the Easy Ultimo, and it is basically a vision of what a luxury car is going to look like. It's as long as a Rolls-Royce Phantom, it's lower than a Mini. In there you've got seating for 3 people, you've got walnut on the floor, you've got marble on the walls. Perhaps not the best material for building an efficient car, but hey, who am I to question it? And there may be a little question over the ground clearance. If you can just get a look at the wheel down there, you've got roughly, I don't know, 3 to 4 millimeters. My problem is, yeah, it's all well and good. Would I like to be whisked to work sitting in the back of that? Yes, I would. But are they ever going to make these cars? I don't think they will, because they're just so enormous. You can only fit about 3 of them in central London. An eye catcher, but doesn't make much sense. Oh yes, look at this. This is a car I've fallen in love with completely just from seeing pictures of it, the new Suzuki Jimny, and this is the first time I've seen it in the flesh, and if it's possible, I think I might love it even more. It's just a perfect piece of design, isn't it? Squared off like a little Tonka toy, a little mini Mercedes G-Class. It's not sophisticated, this thing. It's basically designed to be a budget, rugged 4x4 off-roader, but do you know what? It's just so desirable. One thing I will show you if you come around the back is how small this thing is. It is by no means a G-Class competitor. You can see a normal human sitting in the back there, and this is the boot space that you're left with. But look, who cares about things like that? I've already decided I love it, and that's that. It's a single-seater Ferrari with no roof and no windscreen. It's called the Ferrari Monza. And before I get into all the details, let's just make sure we get a good look at these. This is the SP1, the one that only has 1 seat. And the black car behind you, that's the SP2, because it has 2 seats. What is it? Well, as I said, it's called the Ferrari Monza. It's the first in a range of cars that Ferrari is calling its Icona series, basically harking back to cars from its past. This one nods towards the 750 Monza from the 50s and the 16mm It's a very special series of cars. They're going to cost 1.6 million quid each. They're going to make 499 of them. Basically, how many two-seaters and how many single-seaters they make, well, that's down to customer demand. And basically the idea behind this is that you've got your special series Ferraris, the 488 Speedster and the like. You've got the normal cars like the 488. Then you've got the hyper cars, these super series like the LaFerrari, and then this is on top of that. They've got enough production here, 499 cars to fill 2 years, and the idea is to keep their most loyal and their most, let's face it, wealthy customers happy, because when a LaFerrari is launched, well, there's just not enough to go around. This spreads the love a little bit. You can only buy one each, and it's quite a thing, isn't it? Under there is basically an 812 Superfast, so 6.5 litre V12 naturally aspirated, 799 brake horsepower, is a little bit more than the 812, rear wheel drive, 0 to 60, 2.9 seconds, and a top speed of 186 miles an hour. And I can assure you at 186 miles an hour, little insects hitting your eyeballs will feel like bullets from a gun. But nonetheless, it's not so much about driving it, this thing, as admiring it for what it is, a piece of art. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, it's got to be the two-seater for me. Just a quick word for this car. It's from Japan. It's called the Sparkow. And what it wants to be, what it's claiming to be, is the fastest accelerating car in the world. Now, they've already done 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. It's all electric, by the way, weighs nothing, has lots and lots of power. But if you haven't seen that video, I advise you Google it and have a look straight away. The place where they do the high-speed run is basically in a car park behind an old industrial building with a big ditch at the end of the runoff. Yeah, it's eye-opening, to say the least. Pretty amazing what you can find when you sniff around in the halls behind the big stands, isn't it? This is the Lego stand, and this is a Bugatti Chiron 1-to-1 scale made entirely from Lego. If you're looking for something to keep the kids busy over the Christmas holidays, this should probably do it. 3 million bits, apparently. It weighs 1.5 tons. It actually drives. It's got a tiny electric motor in there. It'll do 30 kilometers an hour, I'm told. And check this out. Look. If I push this, it makes noises. Pretty exciting. Headlights. Hazard lights. I think we better move on. I'm going to get a little bit obsessed with this. What a thing. All right, time for one of the big launches of the Paris show. This is the all-new, the brand new BMW 3 Series, and well, doesn't look too bad, does it? Especially seeing as BMW has been on a bit of a poor run of design form recently. You'll notice it's nicked the headlights from the Peugeot 3008, but we'll let that slide. The big story here, it's 55 kilograms lighter than before, despite being a bit bigger in all dimensions, 41 mil more in the wheelbase. We'll take a quick look around the back. Not masses to report, really. They played it pretty safe. This car here is the 330i, so that's the 2-litre turbo with about 250 horsepower. There's going to be a 330e plug-in hybrid. Frankly, I think we'll hold out for the M3. We should have a look at the interior though if we come over here. Excuse me, sorry. Stick your camera in there. Right. It's a bit fresher, it's a bit more modern, it's a bit cleaner, a bit more like Audi and Mercedes, in fact, than the swarm of black plastic that BMW is used to. The best thing on the Smart Stand isn't the Speedster concept that's tucked over there somewhere. It's this, the in no way unstable Smart Mobile Disco. When I walked past earlier, there was actually a bloke standing there in that cherry picker pod about a foot off the ceiling, wobbling about in the breeze, playing music. I'm sorry that he's not doing it right now, but what can you do? I would not get in there. Keep up, we've got a lot to get through. Now this is the Mercedes stand and this is the new A-Class, but the new A35 AMG hot hatch. There will be a full fat 400 horsepower plus A45 AMG coming, but in the meantime we've got this to keep us happy. It is a new 2-litre turbocharged engine, 306 horsepower. The whole thing's been tuned up by Mercedes, so the chassis, the suspension, the steering, absolutely everything. Gold wheels, you've got stickers on the side, wings at the back. It's not a half-ass effort, this thing. It's Mercedes' answer to the Golf R, just with a little bit more flair. Looking forward to driving that. And over here we have Mercedes' radical replacement for the new SL Roadster. This thing will be on sale this time next year. I'm joking, look, it's a single-seater. It's called the EQ, what is it? EQ Silver Arrow, yes. Another retro-themed thing, this time harking back to the Speedster, the Streamliners from the 30s. Very cool, largely irrelevant, but it does show that Mercedes is starting to take electric cars very seriously. And the electric car that you can actually buy is over here. Although admittedly you probably walked straight past it if you didn't know what it was. It's called the EQC. It's another electric SUV. So now we've got the Jaguar I-Pace, we've got this, we've got the Audi e-tron. BMW are doing an electric version of the X3. There must be something in the water because they're all arriving at once. Yeah, around 400 horsepower, 250 miles on a charge, 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds. All the numbers add up. And as I say, they haven't pushed the boat out that much with the styling, but whereas before it's all been electric concept cars, it's been flights of fantasy, they've been testing the water. It feels like today at this motor show, the electric car is landing because this is a real thing and you can really buy it. That's probably a better look at it there in white rather than the camouflage black blob over there. Don't get me wrong, not an ugly car, but I always thought the electric revolution would be more radical. Okay, and on to the Audi stand, which is quite often a motor show in itself. And we start here with the brand new and really quite angry Audi A1. Now, what's interesting here is if you look at this front bonnet line, you've got this series of vents in the nose. Now, that's a nod to the Sport Quattro, the short wheelbase Sport Quattro. It's also painted in red and it's got white wheels. This version here, again, a nod to that car, but quite why they've chosen a Super Mini to reference their most legendary road car ever, I'm not entirely sure. The interior, I don't know if we can grab a shot of that in there, is obviously spectacularly good for a car of this size. Screens everywhere. Audi really do hate buttons these days, don't they? In terms of engines, well, the most powerful engine from launch is 197 horsepower. That's until the inevitable S1 comes along. And this model, it says on the back, is a 30 TSI. And I have no idea what that means because Audi's naming structure these days is complete gibberish. Oh, over here, look. Now, we've seen the Mercedes EQC. This is Audi's version. It's called the e-tron. Now, around these parts, this name is a bit controversial because in French, etron means turd. So if you see any French people in the background laughing their heads off, that's probably what's going on. Just like the Mercedes, it has about 400 horsepower. It has 250 miles of range on the WLTP cycle. But the Audi has a few tricks up its sleeve. Namely, it's an Audi, so it's built brilliantly. And secondly, you'll notice it doesn't have any traditional wing mirrors, just these things with cameras on the end and then screens on the inside of the door. Supposedly more aerodynamic, supposedly increases your range. I've actually been having a good look at these. I don't know why they had to be quite so big. If all you have to get in is a lens there, why isn't it just a nipple on the shoulder line there? I'm sure there's a good engineering reason, just my observation. Again, it's not a radical piece of design, is it? The Jaguar I-Pace looks like a trailblazer compared to this and the Mercedes. They're obviously banking on the fact that people that are going to transition to electric cars want to play it safe. They want a comfort blanket. They want to drive a car that has a boot in the right place and seats where they expect them and a dash that looks like something normal. The I-Pace, I love it because it challenges conventions. It's different. This, meh. Oh, take a look at this. This is the PB18 e-tron concept. And just look, it's a thing of beauty. It's the supercar of the future, according to Audi, anyway. Such a bold design, isn't it? So it's low slung, it's wide, it's got all the sort of hallmarks of a mid-engine supercar, except it's got that elongated roof, so it starts to look a little bit more like a shooting brake. There's space for your groceries back there, perhaps a small dog, who knows? The big story, of course, is the fact that this is an electric car. Let's come around here so we can get a look at the front. The Audi R8, of course, into its second generation. Could this be the car that replaces the R8? Audi is obviously embracing EV tech in a big, big way. The reaction to this thing has been absolutely insane, and the technology is there. It's got 750 horsepower, this thing. It'll do 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat, 4-wheel drive. It looks beautiful. It would obviously cost a lot of money, but then people are prepared to pay that these days. I'd be prepared to pay it for something that looks like that. One of the stars for me. And it's a short hop over to the Porsche stand where we find a trio of Speedsters. Now that is the 356 Speedster, that is the 3.2 Speedster model, and that is the new one. That's what we're here to see. There was a concept that we saw a few months back, but this is the production car. They've announced that they're going to build 1,948 of these cars, and the reason for that is because the year 1948, June 1948, in fact, is when the 356 Speedster was launched. It's such a beautiful thing. I'm having to tear my eyes off it. 60 horsepower that thing had. That's all you really needed, wasn't it? But let's focus on this, the new one. Right, what is it? It is a retro homage, but under that skin, it's basically the running gear from a GT3. So the 4-litre, 6-cylinder, naturally aspirated engine, 500 horsepower, 9,000 RPM. The body is taken from a C4 Cabriolet, but you don't even get a folding roof on this thing. Let's move around here to get a closer look. No, you just get a stretchy piece of canvas to lob over the top if you get caught in the rain. But there's some lovely, lovely details on this thing. The double bubble rear section, of course, only a 2-seater. If you see the wing mirrors, they've got this conical retro design. The fuel filler cap, that's in the middle of the front bonnet. Oh, a proper GT department project this. This isn't just a limited edition from the mainstream Porsche model lineup. This is a Preuninger special, a GT3 that's been slathered in stylish bits. Yeah, I'll leave it there. And here's a lesson to all manufacturers. If you've got a bit of show stand space to fill, just wheel out your hypercars. You just can't go wrong. This is potentially the greatest 4-car garage ever assembled. Porsche 959, let's walk along the lineup. 911 GT1, super rare, these things. Homologation model for the Le Mans racer back in the 90s. The Carrera GT. Ooh, yes please, wooden gear knob V10, screaming V10, over 600 horsepower. Yet to drive one of those, that's on the bucket list. And of course the Porsche 918 Spider, just chilling out at the end there. There must be a box that's full of keys somewhere around here, perhaps around the back of the stand. The keys to these cars exist somewhere here, and I'm going to find them. And onto the Skoda stand, where believe it or not, there's a couple of quite exciting things, including this. The Kodiaq RS, or the Kodiaq VRS when it comes to the UK. We're the only people that use the VRS badge. It is a hotter, go faster version of the 7-seat SUV that we already know and love. Under there though, it flies against convention because there isn't a petrol engine. It's a 2-litre diesel with 237 horsepower. It'll do 0-60 in 7 seconds and something above 130 miles an hour. Handy when you're late for dropping the kids off at school. More than the specs though, what's interesting is what this car represents. As we all know, Skoda used to be the butt of jokes. It's taken years and years to shrug that image, and it well and truly has done that now. Its reputation is reliability and value and practicality. The next stage in the Skoda journey is to add desirability into the mix. And this £40,000 Skoda is doing just that. And do you know what? I quite want one. The Vision RS. There's a lot of RS going on the Skoda stand today, isn't there? It's a more upmarket, a more premium hatchback to sit below the Octavia but above it in price. It's also a hot hatch, this thing, because under there we got a 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine with about 150 horsepower, and then it adds 100 horsepower of electric on top of that. So this is a 250 horsepower Skoda hot hatch, and no one's laughing, are they? It looks absolutely fantastic. So that's it. That's plenty of Paris Motor Show for one day, I think. Some of the big marquee names didn't turn up, but who cares? We have fun without them. I'm absolutely knackered, so if you could clear off, I'm going to go and have a baguette and a pint of red wine.